Howdy lads, welcome back to a new video. In this one I will be predicting the league phase of the Champions League. Let's get into it. Starting us off in at number 36, I've decided to go with one of the Champions League debutants of this season. Unfortunately, it's Pafos or FC or however you would call it. I am only giving them 0 points this season. Unfortunately, someone had to finish on 0 in my opinion, and I think it's going to be Pafos. Something to be on the lookout for though, however, if you are from Belgium or you are a fan of the Jupiler Pro League, Landry Di Matta, the ex-RSC Anderlecht striker, has now signed for them, so he will be in action in the Champions League this season, which is kind of insane. In at number 35, I've decided to go with Karabakh, only giving them 1 point. Now this is a bit more of an out there shout, but they do have a really difficult set of fixtures and I just don't really see them picking up a lot of points. In fact, I've only given them 1. In at number 34 we have our second Champions League debutant out of 4 this season. It's FC Kairat from Kazakhstan. I'm giving them 1 victory against the last placed Pafos FC because I just believe handing them this 1 victory in their first ever Champions League campaign, I could see the supporters running them on to do so. Other than that though, I don't foresee them picking up many points, hence why I've got them 34th. My number 33 has got to be Slavia Praha from Czechia. Now they have got a difficult fixture list as well, facing sides like Inter and Atalanta from Italy. They are going to have a tough time of it in my opinion. They've also lost Zaiferis to one of the Greek sides, I think it was PAOK. Which, I mean, that was their most important player. He's now gone. If I'm not mistaken, they did sign Vladimir Sofal on a free, but they've now also sold a very young centre-back to Bournemouth. So it's just a lot of question marks in my opinion when it comes to Slavia, hence why I've only got them in 33rd. 32nd, the first really big hitter, I decided to go with Sporting Lissabon. I've got them losing games against the likes of Bayern Munich, Juventus, Paris Saint-Germain, which I don't think are unrealistic shouts at all. I've also had them lose against Bilbao and pick up points against Marseille, but overall a really disappointing season for Sporting Lissabon. They are unfortunately out with, I believe, only 4 points. In at 31st on 5 points, meaning I gave them 1 win and 2 draws in this Champions League group stage or league phase, whatever you want to call it. It's Copenhagen from Denmark. Now they've also built a pretty interesting squad this summer, mainly adding Youssoufa Moukoko up front, who, I mean, everybody expected massive things from, and he hasn't really delivered on those promises. Apart from that though, this is a side who is a Champions League regular, so they don't really feel the pressure of having to perform in that first campaign, which other big sides might well feel. But I don't think they are going to get through to the next round, hence why I've got Copenhagen in 31st. My number 30, and a very big shock to me personally as well, once I saw the table that was calculated after I predicted every single result, or what I thought would be every single result. In at number 30, we've got PSV from the Netherlands. Now PSV do have a unbelievably difficult draw, and that's most likely the reason why they are this low in the table. But it would still be a really big disappointment for Eindhoven fans, for PSV Eindhoven fans, to see their team finish not even in one of the knockout spots, and with knockout spots I mean one of the playoff games before we get to the round of 16. I think PSV are looking to get at least into one of those, but unfortunately the way I've predicted it, it won't be happening. Signings like Ruben van Bommel do really excite me. Alassane Plea, who they are now missing until January, which is a really big loss, but they have brought in Myron Boadou. They have brought in someone from Valencia at centre back who the name is escaping me right now, but looks like an unbelievable get for them. Serginho Dest is still there. I think PSV could be dangerous, but unfortunately their schedule is just a little too heavy. 29th, so another one of the teams going out directly. I decided to go with Atalanta Bergamo. Now this would again be a massive shock. Last season they did play those playoffs, lost those playoffs against Club Brugge, what already was a really big shock. Now I don't think they have strengthened over the summer at all. In fact, they've gotten somewhat weaker. They've also put themselves now in a position where the Ademola Lookman situation isn't resolved. But on the other hand, I'm gonna be honest, as a Newcastle fan, I would rather my club took that approach like Atalanta has done with Ademola Lookman than take the approach of let's just get him out of here and have the situation be over with, because I genuinely believe we can't be encouraging players to throw their toys out of the pram. On Atalanta though, they've also lost their manager of 9 years, Gianpiero Gasperini, who has now gone to AS Roma. That will be a massive transitional season for Atalanta. I think they are going to struggle, both domestically and in Europe. So, 29th. And another big hitter exiting the Champions League early this season. In 28th, I've decided to go with Benfica. Now Benfica is really interesting one, because usually they always get to at least the latter stages or the stages past the January window of the Champions League. But this season I just think the Champions League table looks so unbelievably competitive, because you're going to see there are still some massive teams who will be missing out on even the knockout qualifications, which means some smaller teams should be in there, but that's not really the case in my opinion. So Benfica, they're just missing out by virtue of being a little less big than the other guys in front of them, but I mean this is still a massively exciting squad and someone that or a squad that could really surprise us. However, I struggle a little bit to see where the goals are coming from in this team. 27th, now this is one I would be shocked if I turned out to be correct on this one, but I've put Eintracht Frankfurt there. Now Frankfurt have lost both Marmoush and Ekitike now over the space of 6 months, and if I'm not mistaken, I don't really think they have replaced them. I mean, they did bring in Jonathan Burkhardt and Ritso Doan, who are Bundesliga proven players, but they aren't necessarily Champions League proven players. My problem with Eintracht Frankfurt is just this always selling and then buying cheap, selling big, buying cheap. Eventually it's gonna come back to bite you. They have historically performed pretty well in Europe, but I don't think that will be the case this season. Frankfurt, I'm sorry, you're dropping out this season for me as well. 26th, there are only 2 more teams left who will be automatically dropping out of this season's competition. Fortunately, one of those teams, unfortunately, has got to be Olympiacos. Now, Olympiacos do have an easier schedule compared to some of the rest of the teams, especially those below them, but I still don't think they are going to have the quality to get to the next round. Their owner, I mean, the less said about him the better in my opinion. Angelis Marinakis, the same owner as Nottingham Forest, but they do spend a pretty penny in the market. They are one of the leading teams in Greece again this season, and I mean, they could surprise a lot of people, but I don't think they will make it even to the knockout rounds. The last team I've set to immediately drop out of the Champions League this season is AS Monaco, career mode playing AS Monaco, and I don't really like to put them there because I would love to see Paul Pogba and Ansu Fati and Eric Dyer and all of those lads have a real good run in the Champions League this season, but unfortunately I don't think that's going to happen. They have managed to keep a hold of both Ben Seguir and Akliouche, which are 2 massively exciting wingers for them, meaning they have some options in attack, but unfortunately I've got them just about missing out on the playoff rounds. 24th, and the first team who will be playing playoffs, they will actually be facing number 9 in the table. It's Galatasaray. Now Galatasaray have had an unbelievable summer window. Osimhen has signed, Sané has signed, Gundogan has signed. The Turkish Super League transfer window still goes on to like the 12th or the 13th of December, and they are still massively trying to sign Hakan Çalhanoğlu. They've also signed Wilfried Sinho in defense to partner Davinson Sanchez. This is an absolutely sick team Galatasaray are building, and they are going to be a threat to anyone they play, especially with someone like Victor Osimhen up front. In at number 23, probably the most surprising pick in a video yet, I've put Bodo Glimt there, one of the Champions League debutants, and I think they have every chance to be right there. This is one of the worst away days in the entirety of the Champions League right now. You have to go all the way to the north of Norway, meaning this is a place where during the winter there's like 3 to 4 hours of sun each day, and during the summer they have nights where it doesn't even get dark. So this is one of the most weird locations when it comes to climate, when it comes to having to play football, because your body has to adjust to that climate. It's a horrifying away day, and I think they will pick up a lot of points as well, especially due to their high energy style of football. I could see them getting through to the next round of this Champions League, which would be an incredible achievement by Bodo Glimt. And right above them, in 22nd, I've got the last debutants of this season's Champions League. It's Union Saint-Gilloise from Belgium. Now, it's really mad to think about it, but Union have only been promoted to the first division, or back to the first division in Belgium a couple of seasons ago. Since then they've challenged for the title every single season. Last year they eventually got over the line, and this season they are looking to make their debut in the Champions League. Obviously we, Newcastle United, have drawn them as opponents. They have some other exciting fixtures in there as well. I see them picking up wins against the likes of PSV, for example, hence why I've got them in 22nd. For foreign football fans, it's probably also nice to know Union Saint-Gilloise kind of have the same ownership group as Brighton and Hove Albion, so this is an unbelievably smart, well-run club with not that big names when they arrive, but massive names when they're sold. I mean, when they leave, think of the likes of Mitoma, Boniface, Amoura, Undav. They have all come through Union. In 21st, actually a really big surprise if you do follow the Eredivisie in the Netherlands, I've put Ajax there. Now, if you have a look at both the teams over the last 2 seasons maybe, and their summer transfer window leading up to this season, PSV are way better in my opinion than Ajax is. Ajax are now looking to bring back Kasper Dolberg, who, I mean, he did pretty well at Anderlecht, so I don't hate that signing, especially after selling Brian Brobby to Sundershide. So it's really not a bad option at all for them, but PSV are so much more well equipped to Europe, but Ajax just have an easier run. They have an easier fixture list, and I believe they could pick up some more points than PSV are picking up and get themselves into a knockout position. In 20th, we're nearly halfway there, I've put Villarreal there. Now Villarreal have again had a very interesting window. I mean, their midfield signing, let's not talk about that one, but signing Renato Vega as your centre-back / left-back option, just incredibly smart business, especially if you know that both Juventus and Atletico Madrid had been after his signature for a big part of the summer. It's really exciting for a club like Villarreal to get those players in then. They've also brought in Alberto Malero, who is a bit of a career mode legend. But they have sold Alex Baena and Jeremy Pino, who are 2 of their most creative players in this entire squad. So I do think that will take some adjusting. However, Villarreal do have the man, the myth, the legend, Ayoze Perez, who is just absolutely playing out of his skin right now. In at number 19 and the halfway point of our table, it's Club Brugge. Now, Club Brugge have shown their not only quality last season's Champions League, but in the transfer market this summer as well, because they have sold massively for massive amounts of money. But if you still have a look at that squad, there's still a lot of talent there. Think about Vermand, think about Zoli. Vito Rees is now there, Tresoldi looks like an exciting young striker, Forbes looks really exciting for them. They've still got their fullbacks in Saz and Sike, for example, or Spileers has played some minutes there, who can also play at the back. Club Brugge just have a lot of options, a lot of young, exciting, hungry players who will have gained a lot of confidence from their campaign last season. And I think those young players could drag them all the way across the line towards another knockout spot, playoff spot, you know what I mean. In number 18, talk about a team who has sold massively this season. It's Bayer Leverkusen. Now Bayer Leverkusen have already thrown out Erik ten Hag. He just can't catch a break, can he? They've sold Wirtz, they've sold Ta, they've sold Frimpong, they've sold Hincapié, they've sold Xhaka. I mean, there's a lot of question marks when it comes to this Leverkusen team. What will they look like? What is their best 11? How will the signings, the new signings that are supposed to replace these massive names that have gone out the door? Let's wait and see. I don't think they will be horrific, because this is still a team with a lot of players that have had a very great style embedded in them, but it will be a big step back, both domestically and in Europe. That's why I've only got them in 18th, one of Newcastle's opponents, by the way. In at number 17th, back-to-back teams from Germany, and a team who, I mean, have a history of always at least competing in the Champions League. It is Borussia Dortmund. Now, they are in a bit of a weird phase, in my opinion, because they have not had a great summer at all, if you ask me. They also don't really have big saleable assets. Maybe in the future players like Joe Bellingham could become that, but right now they don't, which is a strange place for them to be, because they've always had at least one Bellingham, Haaland, Sancho type of player ready to be sold, but they don't really right now. I do think Terzic is one of the more stable managers they have had over the last 5 seasons, but I still really worry about Dortmund when it comes to cracking that top 8, for example. I don't think they have the squad depth or quality to do so. My number 16 has to be Olympique Marseille. This is a team who have had a pretty great window. I mean, they've now brought in Matt O'Reilly, they've brought in Igor Paixão from Feyenoord, they've brought in defensive reinforcements, I'm really sure, but the names are escaping me. CJ Egan-Riley, for example. They've signed Arthur Vermeeren, they've signed Benjamin Pavard, which I believe is a very underrated signing. They've also brought back Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, but I mean, this is a great squad. Have a look at all the names. This is a very good squad with a quality coach in Dajerbi, so they won't be in any real trouble of not qualifying, but I also don't think they will be pushing for that top 8, because they don't have that level of star power, star quality that can turn a game on its head on their own, in my opinion. In at number 15, my pick is Tottenham Hotspur. Now, if you want to know how hot I am on Thomas Frank and this Tottenham Hotspur side, please check out my Premier League predictions. But Frank is just an amazing coach, isn't he? I believe he will get the Spursiness out of this team, and with that I mean Spursy would be if they won against PSG but then lost against Karabakh the game week after. That's this Spursiness. I believe Thomas Frank is more so the manager that draws 1-1 with PSG but then smashes Karabakh, which, I mean, if you're a Spurs fan, that's actually pretty much what you would prefer, isn't it? Because I think they've also grown really tired of this Spursy nickname. So 15th in the Champions League, no trouble, no worry about missing out, and moving on to the playoff rounds. And the same goes obviously for number 14, a team who I think will absolutely take that, because it does mean they are playing European football even after January, and those fans are absolutely loving this. It's Athletic Bilbao. Now, Bilbao is going to be a really tough visit for away teams, because I mean, the crowd will be right up for it. Last season they competed for the Europa League to play in the final in their own stadium. Unfortunately, they didn't reach that final, so their players will be hungry as well to top what they did last season. And let's not forget, Nico Williams is still a Bilbao player. In at number 13, another big shocker in this prediction video, I've put Liverpool there. Now Liverpool haven't really seen a lot of trouble with qualifying last season. They were in the top 8, meaning they didn't even have to play qualification matches. But for example, in Manchester City did have to do so. So it isn't actually that weird a sight to see one of those teams down there. And I think Liverpool's defense, as well as their squad depth, could massively let them down. Over the coming few days, a video will be coming out in which I will be ranking every single transfer window in the Premier League. But a little slight small spoiler, I don't think Liverpool have the deepest squad out of the top English sides. And that could be a big problem, because if you look at all the other teams' business, they are preparing to have a big squad. They are adding instead of replacing, which isn't really something Liverpool have done, in my opinion. In at number 12, another big surprise. I also must say there are just a lot of massive fixtures in this league phase already, meaning not a lot of teams are going to have the opportunity to pick up 8 wins out of 8 games. That's what I'm trying to say. But my next team is Bayern München. Now, Bayern are a strange side, because Vincent Kompany, in my opinion, is doing an absolutely magnificent job there, making them attackingly fluid, but I do think he's a little bit too naive and too inexperienced to face top sides and consistently beat them too. That's why I've got them a little lower, because Bayern's fixture list is also really tough for this league phase. But I do still think they will be fine and probably reach the round of 16 without much trouble. In at number 11, someone who is looking to prove his doubters wrong, it's Antonio Conte's Napoli. Now, they have had a massive summer, in my opinion, bringing in the likes of Luka and Højlund in the striker role, Noah Lang, KDB obviously, we can't forget him, Bukema at centre back. They've had Miguel Guterres at left back. They've had a really great summer of recruitment, is what I'm trying to say. They've also not really lost that many players, or any players at all, which contributed to the first 11, so that's a really big positive as well. I think this could be the season where the doubts about Antonio Conte being able to perform when he's playing 3 games a week, when he's having to contend with European nights, I think those doubts will finally be eradicated and Napoli will have a pretty good Champions League season. My number 10, so the second to last team who will be playing playoffs this season or come February, I've gone with Atletico de Madrid. Now, Atletico, they have had a pretty great summer, in my opinion. Think of the likes of Cardoso who has joined, think of Baena who's joined from Villarreal, who I really like. There is some added star power in this squad, but I don't think it's going to be enough to get them over the line, because I think, for one, the 9 teams above them are maybe slightly better, and the second reason is just, I mean, their fixtures are hard. I've not done this like I usually do my Premier League predictions. I've literally filled out every single match and calculated the points afterwards, so this is kind of a blind table, but also probably the most accurate to what I would go on to predict. And that brings us to the number 9 position, the last team who will be playing playoffs, and I've put Newcastle United there. How heartbreaking is this? I have us winning 5 games against Bilbao, against Benfica, against PSV, against Union and against Leverkusen, who I mean, those are 5 games which are very winnable for us. I have us drawing against Marseille and against Barcelona on the opening game in St. James's Park. And I do unfortunately have us losing against Paris Saint-Germain away in Paris, which I don't think are that unrealistic results to predict for Newcastle. And it would see us just about miss out on automatic qualification for the round of 16, which would be absolutely heartbreaking. But that does mean the fixtures for the playoff rounds are us, Newcastle United, facing Galatasaray, which would be an absolute cracker, both from a fans versus fans perspective as well as two great teams in my opinion. Atletico Madrid will face Bodo Glimt. Antonio Conte and Kevin De Bruyne / Romelu Lukaku's Napoli will be facing Union. Liverpool face Villarreal. Club Brugge take on Athletic Bilbao, which I believe could be a really fun fixture as well, because I don't really see a favourite in that one. Tottenham Hotspur face Bayer Leverkusen, and that leaves us with only one more fixture, which is Marseille facing Borussia Dortmund. Now I suggest we get straight into the top 8. Starting things off in the top 8, I've decided to go with, probably behind Arsenal, the best defense in Europe. It's Inter Milan. Now Inter haven't had really that great of a summer window, but they are still the best or most well-equipped team in Italy to contend with European nights. Their players are used to it, they have a pretty deep squad, they have depth, especially in attack, which is just absolutely important. The one really big question when it comes to Inter Milan is their coach Cristian Chivu, because they've brought him in from Parma, and Chivu can't be criticized for this at all, because it's a fuck up on Inter Milan's behalf. They put all of their eggs in Cesc Fabregas and Antonio Conte's basket, who both decided to stay with their respective clubs, meaning they were scrambling to find a replacement for Inzaghi. They ended up bringing in their old player Chivu, who only has coached one season at Parma, and I just think that's a really big risk. Apart from that though, this is still a really experienced, really class Inter Milan side, and that's why I've got them in 8th. In 7th, however, we have another Italian team, and an Italian team who has had a really exciting window, and I think have an exciting season for them ahead. It's Juventus. Juventus have great depth in attack as well. Think about Openda, David, Zergova, Conceição, Yildiz, Vlahovic. Those are absolutely fantastic attackers. They've also, they have now gotten rid of Douglas Luiz after just one season, because that just really didn't work. But if you are able to play a midfield two of Thuram and Locatelli, maybe get another midfielder as well, like Teun Koopmeiners, who, okay, didn't have a great season last year, but still has some upside, I think Juventus could be a really dangerous proposition next season. In at number 6, and maybe pretty low, but I think this top 8 is kind of interchangeable, it's Real Madrid. Now, Real Madrid, again, Xabi Alonso is the real big difference when it comes to them compared to last season. I thought he would be playing more of a 3 at the back system, but that doesn't really seem to be the case right now, so that means he's adaptable. I'm a really big fan of Xabi Alonso. I also think the signing of Trent could be invaluable for them. Dean Huizen has already proven that he's ready, or was ready, for that step up. Yeah, Real Madrid looks scary, man. I'm really looking forward to see them play this season. But they are pipped in number 5 by Barcelona. Now, Barcelona haven't had a crazy exciting summer yet again, but maybe that's for the better, because they haven't really spent big at all this summer, and that's something they needed to do for a long time. They just need to get in some prize money, develop some players, and not spend that money right away, and that's exactly what they have done. And this is still an unbelievable squad, isn't it? Pedri, Yamal, Rafinha, Lewandowski, Rashford has now joined. This is so fun to watch. Barcelona will be absolutely fine yet again. In at number 4, I've gone with Arsenal. Now, Arsenal do have some difficult fixtures as well, but I don't see them dropping many points. This is again such a tidy defense. They have now brought in a lot of options to get or break down opponents when they are sitting in more of a low block, letting Arsenal come at them. They've brought in a lot of new attacking options, different styles of play that are possible for Arsenal to just break down their opponents basically. I think they will have a great season yet again, in Europe yet again, but it's not top of the table, and I mean, who really cares? My number 3 has to be the European champions, Paris Saint-Germain. I've already told you I've got them as the only team beating Newcastle in this season's Champions League phase. So, I mean, I've got a pretty high dunk of them, obviously. How can't you? They reached the final of the Club World Cup, they won the Champions League, their fluid attack with Desiré Doué, with Barcola, with Kvaratskhelia, it's absolutely mouth-watering, and they will be fantastic yet again. I mean, is there anyone who actually doubts that? My number 2 is Manchester City. Manchester City, who admittedly have only started the Premier League season with 3 out of possible 9 points, but I don't think Pep will allow that to happen in the Champions League. I think that when the Champions League starts, their squad will be a little more settled in, and they also haven't really got that difficult of fixtures. But I don't have them topping the table, because there are still some growing pains in this team. And the club who I actually do have topping the 2025-2026 Champions League phase table is Chelsea Football Club. I think Chelsea will top the table. I mean, they're just probably the most well equipped for a European season. They have cut all of their deadwood yet again this summer, and they've just created a really exciting squad. If we're talking about winning the whole thing, I think they could do with a little more experience in this squad for those big moments, those nervy moments. But just for a league phase with a squad that can get rotated, that has to contend with both league football, national cup football, and then European football, I think Chelsea is one of, if not the most equipped teams in Europe to compete on all fronts, and I think that's exactly what they will do this season. That's why I've got them finishing top of the table. Please though, let me know what your Champions League predictions are in the comment section down below. Do I have made any horrific mistakes when predicting this Champions League table? Please let me know down in the comment section or on social media, Magpie247. Give us a follow while you're over there as well, and I would like to see you in the next video. Bye.